Hey, what's up guys? Today I'll show you a historical drama film, The Physician. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. Rob is a young boy and works as a miner in England, exchanging whatever he is digging out of the ground for lumps of bread that he takes home to save his mother and younger siblings. That night, Rob's mom suddenly has a momentary bout of pain. Strangely, when Rob touches his mom, time freezes and he has a weird feeling that she's dying. So he goes to find the itinerant barber surgeon, who appears earlier in the town. The barber comes at his earnest request. He does not manage to save the sick mom. Following the death of Rob's mom, Rob and his two other siblings are separated. As no one wants to adopt Rob, who is older, he begs Barber to take him as an apprentice. Unfortunately, Barber rejects him. Rob does not give up easily, and he sneaks into Barber's chariot secretly. When Barber discovers Rob attaching to him, he wants to kick him away. In the end, Barber's heart softens, and he keeps the orphaned boy. Many years later, Rob has been traveling with Barber to various places for sales pitches, tooth pulling, and cauterized computations. But he's aware that such primitive medical treatment is not able to help patients like his mom. At that time, England has already become a Christian country. The church is against the development of medicine, and often persecutes healing as witchcraft. So Barber and Rob have to keep a low profile in receiving and treating patients. One day, when they are extracting a farmer's tooth, Rob suddenly gets a strange feeling, just like the feeling he had when he touched his mom the night she died. And he realizes the guy who just lost a tooth is going to die soon. In the evening, Rob tells Barber that the farmer is dying soon. At first, Barber does not believe that Rob can predict death, so he laughs him off. To his shock, the unfortunate dental patient turns up dead, and the locals immediately start screaming that a tooth extraction is a form of witchcraft. In the face of danger, Barber asks Rob to flee. To Rob, Barber is not only his teacher, but also his close family member, so he stays with Barber. After the attack, Rob rescues Barber, whose hands are burnt. When he places his hand on Barber's chest, he does not have any weird feelings. Relieved at the fact that Barber is safe, he takes care of Barber until he recovers. With the injuries, Barber cannot perform surgery anymore, so he trains Rob to work on his behalf. As practice makes perfect, Rob soon becomes a trustworthy doctor. Sometime later, Barber develops a cataract, and his eyesight suffers. In search of a cure, Rob consults a Jewish doctor, who's more professional than the barber. Rob pays for the treatment, and witnesses the whole process of surgery. Soon after, Barber's eyesight is restored to him, and Rob is astonished by how much the Jewish physician knows. The physician tells him that he studied with Ibn Sina, a genuine Persian doctor. Rob decides on a journey to the Middle East, because he wants to study medicine with Ibn. Barber tries to dissuade Rob, but when he realizes Rob's determination, he allows him to go. Bidding farewell to Barber, Rob alone takes his expedition to the medical school. Due to the conflict between different religions, Rob realizes he cannot be an open Christian. So he decides to disguise himself as a Jew. At last, he has arrived at the harbor of the Middle East by boat. In order to look like a Jew inside out, Rob endures the pain of circumcision, a Jewish custom compulsory for all men. And then he joins a Jewish caravan which is led by Rebecca. Rebecca initially does not notice Rob until they pass through a small town. Over there, Rob learns about Seljuks, a brutal and barbaric nomadic tribe responsible for the massacre and destruction of the town. Among the victims, a teenage girl is found alive. Although the caravan does not want to burden themselves with the girl's presence, Rebecca takes the girl with her. As night draws, the young girl falls sick and gets feverish. Rob tries to heal her with all his knowledge. While taking care of the young patient, Rob hears the story of the 1001 hormone night from literate Rebecca, and gazes at her in awe. On the second day, the whole team is swept away by a sandstorm. Rob survives the disaster, but he cannot find Rebecca. Without any water or food, other survivors have collapsed one after another. Rob alone continues walking in the desert by the skin of his teeth. Just when Rob is too exhausted to move on, he sees the city from afar and perseveres. In the end, Rob arrives in Isfahan, a civilized city that boasts many advanced developments in various sectors. Ibn runs a large hospital dedicated in equal measure to treating the sick and teaching students. Without further wait, Rob visits the hospital and college run by Ibn, but he is denied admission. Soon after he is driven out, Rob faints of fatigue on the street. Rob awakens to find his wounds well stitched. To his surprise, the kind and generous old man who treats him happens to be Ibn, whom he is seeking desperately. And then Rob is admitted into the school and begins his learning journey with Ibn. As he observes Ibn closely, he finds him a knowledgeable and wise man who has interests in many fields of science. Ibn has given him many precious teachings. Day after day, Rob has settled down in Isfahan as a Jew. On one occasion, at the wedding of a local tycoon, he discovers that the bride is Rebecca, who also survived the sandstorm. Now that she is marrying the tycoon, Rob could only bid farewell to her. Losing her loved ones, Rob wants to drink his way out of sadness, and even calls a prostitute up for service. However, when he approaches the prostitute, he senses that she is dying soon. So he convinces her to go to the medical college for Ibn's verification. Ibn does not doubt Rob's judgment, and helps to calm the patient down. Rob examines her body, and quickly finds her foot bitten by scorpions, and the wound becomes dark and swollen. The prostitute will lose her life today without any treatment. Rob regards such a gift of sensing death as a burden, but Ibn enlightens him to look at it from other perspectives. At this time, Ibn is summoned by the king, so Ibn takes this chance to recommend Rob to the royals. During their first meet, Rob can tell King is a cruel man, but he does not fear him. King has broken his wrist while killing the Seljuk messenger. Little does he know that the messenger turns out to be the son of the Seljuk leader. To avenge, the enemy has thrown in a man with Black Death disease to Isfahan to deliberately infect the whole city. The man dies an abnormal death, and Ibn is soon informed of it. Based on his past experiences, Ibn predicts that an epidemic is imminent and inevitable. But King does not trust his judgment. Rob scans through the medical records and concludes that the outbreak will come in the next 12 hours. They set up temporary medical help stations, getting ready for the heavy flow of patients. In the meantime, the ignorant and arrogant king invites them to a hunting party, but Ibn firmly turns down the invitation. As expected, Black Death spreads really fast within the country. To contain the widespread, doctors encourage residents to stay at home for self-quarantine and works on pinning down the cause. Frightened, people are leaving the city by all means. To Rob's shock, King has declared that only the nobles are allowed to go out and other ordinary citizens must remain in the city. Rebecca's husband escapes the city, leaving Rebecca to fall sick. Helpless Rebecca has contracted the virus and struggles with high fever. She submerges herself in water to cool down the body temperature. Rob then brings Rebecca back to the hospital and nurses her back to health. Meanwhile, Rob suggests dissecting a corpse to see if the buboes could be surgically excised. But Ibn refuses, saying that Islam forbids dissection. Shortly after, Rob discovers that the virus is transmitted via fleas on the corpse. With reference to the ancient records, Ibn and Rob make strategies to deal with the virus. They first burn the corpses inhabited by fleas, followed by eradicating the rats across the city with poison. Owing to their concerted efforts, the death toll finally drops, and the infected patients recover one after another. When the epidemic is over, the nobles return to their home, and self-quarantine facilities are torn down. When everyone is happy that they have overcome the plague, Rob finds one of his friends contracted with the virus and is dying soon. The friend's death hits Rob badly, and he once again recognizes the limitation of the current medicine practice. What cheers him up is Rebecca's love fully bloomed towards him. After she confesses her affection, the two of them engage in an extramarital hormone game. Days later, the king holds a party to celebrate the success of defeating the virus. He praises Rob for bravely giving him medical advice, and befriends him. However, Rob cannot get over the trauma of the plague, and he is no longer interested in Ibn's lessons. One day, he runs into an old man with terminal diseases, who's willing to offer his body for autopsy. So Rob hides his body, and over the next several weeks, gradually dissects the corpse, and draws what he sees. Now that Rob gains an understanding of the human body structure, he cannot help but feels upset at Ibn's wrong teachings. On the other hand, Rebecca refuses to lay with his husband, as she wants to keep their love intact. The mullahs are already planning to attack the medical school, to wipe out the Jews who are thought to blaspheme their God. Mullahs stage protests in the city. Although the king put down the uprising by force, the mullahs found allies in the Seljuk in an attempt to overthrow the king. At the king's invitation, Rob goes on his first hunting trip, and sees another side of the king. Rob's classmate discovers that Rebecca is pregnant. In order to keep the baby, Rebecca heeds the classmate's advice to sleep with her husband. Rob stays in the catacomb to dissect the corpse until early morning, and accidentally exposes his secret work. The captors find the dissected corpse, and drag Rob and Ibn in front of the mullah, who sentences them both to death. Mullahs threaten to execute Ibn. Rob reveals to them that he is a Christian. However, as he has completed circumcision, the mullahs do not buy his smelly shit. That night before the execution, Ibn and Rob have an in-depth talk in prison. Ibn is curious about Rob's dissection and asks him about it, so the two have a discussion on the forbidden topic. When King learns about the charges against Rob and Ibn, he summons the leader of mullahs and orders him to release the two doctors immediately. Before King finishes his words, he collapses of a sudden disease on the throne. Even though his life is at stake, King arranges his people to rescue Rob and Ibn. Knowing that Rob has acquired a good knowledge of anatomy by dissecting the corpse, King boldly chooses a cesarean section. To ensure Rob not to be distracted by anything, the king spares the life of Rebecca, who is about to be stoned for adultery. Rob decides to operate on King, depending on whatever he knows. Outside the palace, the mullahs have launched an attack against the Jews. Unarmed, Jews have no choice but shut themselves in their own house, hoping the disaster would pass over them. The surgery proves successful, and Rob has finally fulfilled his wish of having the skills to save his mom. Only as soon as the drug is over, King puts on his amour to go for war. Escorted by King's guards, Rob enters the city to reunite with Rebecca, who is almost burned alive. By this time, the whole city is engulfed in fire. Mullahs wielding butcher knives to cause troubles in Isfahan. Rob flees the city, but he soon realizes Ibn is missing. So Rob frantically searches for Ibn, and finds him in the library staring at the burning books. Ibn tells Rob that he has taken poison. He gives Rob a book of medical writing, and then readies himself for death as Rob leaves. Shortly after, Rob and Rebecca flee Isfahan together with Ibn's book. Soon after, Isfahan falls as King dies in war. The soldiers are forced by the mullahs to surrender their weapon, and Isfahan is taken over by the new ruler. Many years later, the old barber wonders why he is getting fewer patients. A little boy informs him that Rob returns with Rebecca as his wife to London and establishes a hospital. The barber is excited to see his old pupil, so he asks the boy to lead the way. This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Peace out.